Good morning, Peace Seekers. I'm Victoria Pearson, but you can call me V. And today, as promised before, I am going to be talking you through my double journal method to sort your whole head out. This is what I do when everything's just got far too overwhelming and I've got myself into a cycle of being overwhelmed and so not doing anything, so getting more overwhelmed and everything's just a big mess. We're going to sort that out today. Now, all this is going to cost you is 2 notebooks and 30 minutes a day. And you can do 30 minutes a day. It doesn't matter how busy you are. You can squeeze me in 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes just before bed. That is all that you're going to need, and it is going to sort your whole life out and make everything feel so much easier. So it's definitely worth spending your time. Okay, so to get into my double journal method, you are going to need 2 separate notebooks. One's for your shadow self diary and one is for your light reflecting diary, let's call it that. You don't need them to be particularly expensive, and for your shadow self journal, you don't want it to be expensive at all. The cheapest possible notebook that you can find. But that being said, if you don't live alone, it is useful to get yourself one like this. It's got a lock on it. I will explain why in a little while. These can be a little bit pricey, but usually you can remove the pages from inside them and shove more in. So if you're going to get a lockable diary, make sure it's one that has got the removable pages so you can shove more pages into it when you've filled it up. I will explain more about that in a minute, but first I want to talk to you about the light reflecting journal. If you do fancy splurging on a prettier journal, you're going to want to do that for your light reflecting journal, not for your shadow self journal. That's absolutely okay if you want to do that. We like a pretty journal. It just makes things flow more easily. It makes it more fun to participate in, and that is always useful too. Now, most people find the light journaling a little bit easier to start with. So I'm going to start by talking you through how we do that. We'll come back to the shadow self journal in a little while. So you're going to buy yourself a pretty little journal, just a normal plain notebook. It's absolutely fine. It doesn't have to be like anything particularly special, just standard. It doesn't even have to be a pretty one, but you can have a pretty one if you want one, because this is the one that you're going to be keeping. You're going to be coming back to it fairly regularly. What I'm going to need you to do is put this somewhere that you are going to see it each day before you go to bed. It can be on your bedside table. If it is on your bedside table, put a pen there as well, because we just really want this to be really easy for you. We want the visual reminder that you're doing this because it is a new habit. It is going to take you a little while to form into a habit. If you can see it just before bed each day, it's going to be much easier for you to pick that habit up. And then after 2 or 3 weeks, it'll be a really ingrained habit by then. And by then you can probably put it away in a drawer somewhere and that'll be absolutely fine because you'll have remembered to do it by then. So with your light reflecting journal, what you're going to do is each night, just before you go to sleep, you're going to write down 3 to 5 things that you are grateful for that day. Now, it doesn't have to be a massive thing because it can be quite difficult when you've got yourself into a bit of a slump to find the things that you are grateful for or that have made you happy that day. So it doesn't have to be a massive thing. It can be, my roses in the garden are still holding on despite the cold, or my kid told me spontaneously that they loved me today, or somebody complimented my hair in the street. You know, tiny little things that make your day. That's what we're going to start by writing down. Even on the worst days, you will be able to find something. It will be harder work, but you will be able to find something. It can be as simple as, I'm really glad that it didn't rain on my laundry today. I drank a whole cup of coffee without spilling any of it all over myself. I cooked spaghetti bolognese, wore a white top to eat it, and my top's still white. Those are perfectly valid things. So 3 to 5 things that you are grateful for, that you are proud of, or that made you smile that day. Every single day. This isn't just going to help you with your mindset, it's also going to help you with your manifesting if you're into that sort of thing, because the universe gives to us the energy that we put out into it. And so if you're putting out positive, grateful energy all of the time, that is what's going to end up getting returned to you. But it's going to help your mindset as well, because once you get into the habit of writing those things down every day, what's going to happen is you're going to know that you're going to be doing that. And so your subconscious is going to be looking out for things that have made you happy and making a note of them. Now, normally when we go through our day, it's the low lights that actually stand out to us. Like if somebody says, how was your day at the end of a day? You might be like, oh, do you know, I was late for work today. And then when I got there, my shirt was inside out. I forgot the reports that I was supposed to be doing. And you probably wouldn't think to say to them things like, the cashier at the cafe was really, really lovely today and made me laugh. Or I bumped into an old friend and we had a great chat for 5 minutes in the street and I haven't seen her in ages. So that was brilliant. But once you start writing those things down, those will be the things that you start to focus on. You won't even have to make an effort to do it after a little while. You will just start to notice all these lovely things that are already in your life. And it's going to make you feel a lot better about things. So all those little moments that would just normally fade into the background, times that people give you little compliments, all that sort of thing, you're going to write all that down in your light reflecting journal. It doesn't matter how big or how small it was. It doesn't matter if you think the person was being sincere or they were just being polite, or you've convinced yourself that, I don't know, they hate you and they're just being really nice to you because they're trying to trick you somehow. You know, whatever, write it down. Because like I said, we're going to be keeping this journal. We're going to be going back to it in our dark moments. And we want all those little things to be there, be ready for us to look at. So it can even be things as small as, I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to give up my seat on the bus to an elderly person today. I blew dandelion seeds with my toddler today. I made my sad friend smile today. All those little things that are not things that we would normally actually consciously remember. What we're doing is we're going to train our brain to consciously remember those little positives, those little things that we're proud of, those little things that made us think, yeah, that's made me happy today. That's given me a little smile today. It's given me a little chuckle today. All those little things, they normally get edited out so that our brain can just focus on the dramatic bits. We are teaching our brain to focus on those bits too, or more so. So all these little moments that would otherwise get lost in the background noise of life, things like, I made a sad friend smile today. I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to give up my seat on the bus to an elder today, or I blew dandelion seeds with my child today. Things that would normally just get forgotten about. Your light reflecting journal, this is going to become a living record of all those little tiny joys, those triumphs, those things that you're proud of, all your strengths. This is going to become a source of power for you and a safe place for you to go when you feel sad. So you can remind yourself that actually you're a great person. So on a future bad day, you can be just having a really rubbish day and feeling awful about yourself, and you can go and pick this up and you can look through and you can say, I might be having a rubbish day today, but my grandkid said that I give the best hugs in the world. Or, okay, so today I've got imposter syndrome, but I'm so proud of that thing that I achieved at work. I'm so glad that I wrote it down, that I remember. I don't know if you're anything like me, you don't remember the good things you've done, you only remember those really awful things that actually aren't that awful at all, but in your brain they become blown up into these massive, massive things. Yeah. So over time, your light reflecting journal is going to become a living record of all your strengths, all your little joys, all the brilliant things that you've done. But it is also teaching your brain to look out for those things, to notice when you are doing well. And that is really important. You notice when your other friends are doing well, don't you? When the people that you love are doing well, you praise them, you notice, you're like, yeah, you're really rocking that new hair today. I'm so proud of you getting that new job. I'm so proud of you putting yourself out there on the dating scene after you got your heart broken. But when it comes to ourselves, we don't notice these things and we definitely don't praise them. But I need you to be your own best friend, because like I've said before in other videos, you are stuck with you for your entire life. And so if you have a rubbish relationship with yourself, you're going to be miserable. Start learning to love yourself. Start learning to be your own best friend. This is how you do that. Trust me. So you can even keep a page in here that is dedicated just to your wishes for your manifestation. What I tend to do is do my gratitude-y things in the front and then turn to the back right on the back page and do my wishes that way. So that I can keep them a little bit separate, keep track of them. But that doesn't matter. You can just put it in with your normal gratitude journaling if you want. The important thing though is that when you're doing a manifestation like that, you have to phrase it as if you've already got the thing that you want. And so imagine that I want a new car. I am not going to write, I wish for a new car in my manifestation journal. You have to phrase it in such a way that asks as if you've already got the thing, but it also that focuses on the feeling behind that desire rather than the desire itself. So, for example, if I wanted a new car, I would not say, I wish to get a new car, or even as I used to manifest, I'm so grateful for my new car. Because instead what I would do is ask myself why I actually wanted that new car and phrase it around that. So, for example, if I want a new car because mine has been unreliable, it's been breaking down and I have to drive my children around in it, instead of saying, I'm so grateful for my reliable new car, I would say something like, I'm so grateful that I can reliably transport my children around when I need to. Because that gives the universe the opportunity to give me a solution that maybe I haven't thought of yet. Like maybe it's going to open a brilliant new bus service that runs just outside my front door or something like that. You know, something that would work better for me than a new car. Or maybe it'll give me an old car, but an old car that's much more reliable, much safer than my car. And so I have to leave myself open for the universe to interpret. And the easiest way to do that is getting into the feeling behind why I want the thing. So that is the light reflecting journal. If you write in that for 30 days, every day, religiously, as I've told you to, you will start to feel better. You will. That's just how it works. But to get the best results from this, you are going to want to pair that with your shadow work journal as well. And that one's a little bit deeper, it's a little bit more difficult, and it's a little bit more of effort for beginners, but my gosh, it is so worth it. Once you start doing that internal shadow work, it is going to make your entire life so much better. Let's get into how to do that. Okay, so I've brought you into my bedroom to discuss the shadow journaling technique. That is because this is where I do my shadow journaling work. Please excuse all of my mess behind there. This is an awful shot, I'm sorry for it. So yeah, like I said, you want a notebook that is as cheap as possible, but one where you can get a lockable cover, because then when you have filled it up, you can just pop that right out of there and slip a new cheap notebook in. This is not the notebook that came with this cover, because I have filled it up several times over. The reason that you want the super cheap notebook for inside is because when we have filled that up, we're going to burn it. And the reason that I say that you should have a lock on it is because this is going to be your space to be petty. It is going to be your space to be childish, to let your inner child have their tantrum, yeah? And it's not something that we want other people to see. If you're annoyed with your spouse because they've left the toilet seat up again, and you want to write how they're so selfish because they always just leave the bathroom in a mess every time you've cleaned it, they don't appreciate you whatsoever, and you're really, really mad. Once you've got that out of your chest and into your book, you're then going to be able to go to your spouse and say, look, it upsets me a little bit that you've just left such a mess in the bathroom when you know I've just cleaned it. It makes me feel like you don't value my contribution. You'll be able to say that in a much more calm way and in a way that they're going to be more receptive to than if you just go straight to them and go, why are you so inconsiderate? You've got that all out of your system in your shadow diary before you start. But the thing is, if your spouse then finds that without the context behind it, without knowing that this is your space to just on the page so that you don't have to do it at them, they're going to be hurt by that. And so if you've got that in the back of your mind while you're writing, you're not going to be able to be uninhibited. You're not going to be able to be honest. And so if you do live with anybody, get yourself a lockable diary instead, because that is just going to give you the confidence that you need to be able to be completely ridiculously petty in this book. And that is what you're going to be using it for. Now, I have lifted this technique almost entirely from The Artist's Way by Julia Child, but I have tweaked it a little bit. She recommends in her course that every morning when you first wake up, you write 3 pages of whatever comes into your head. And I say that you should do that as well. And you might be thinking, oh my God, 3 pages first thing in the morning. How am I going to do that? Like, I don't have time in my mornings. Get up a little bit earlier. It's okay. Like, get up and go for a wee if you need to. But apart from that, get back into bed, do your pages before you get up. It's part of your waking up routine now. And that is why people find it a bit more difficult to get hold of, because adding something into your morning routine is so much more difficult than adding something into your evening routine. But if you can get all of this stuff out of your system in the morning, it's going to make your whole day much better. So that's why I think that doing it as morning pages works really, really well. So once you've got a notebook that you are absolutely certain no one is ever going to read, like you have locked it, you've put it in a lockable box, you've hidden the lockable box under the squeaky floorboard behind the kitchen, just whatever, right? Once you've got that notebook and you absolutely know that no one's going to read it, including you, by the way, you're never ever going to read this back, okay? Because We don't want those negative feelings hanging around, right? We're squeezing the pus out of our brain and putting it in the page where it belongs instead, okay? You don't want that hanging around afterwards. You don't want to go around touching it. You wouldn't blow your nose and then start touching your bogies. That's disgusting, right? You've got it all out of your system for a reason. Flush it away. We don't need it anymore. Don't actually flush pages. That's bad for your sanitation systems. Don't have a wee if that's what you need when you first wake up. But then get back into bed, get your notebook and pen. You don't have to be able to even read your own handwriting. So you don't even need to put the light on if you don't want to, because like I said, you're never ever going to be reading this back. And I want you to just write out 3 pages of anything. Absolutely anything. And you may find that for the first week or so, you start your pages by going, I don't know what to write today. And that is absolutely normal and fine. You'll also find that things get a bit repetitive after a while, and you'll think to yourself, God, I'm just whining all the time. That is a sign that you are healing and growing. And so that is a really good sign too. So when you wake up, you're going to write 3 pages of absolutely anything. You're going to start off by writing, I don't know what to write. But this is going to be the place for all your petty little jealousies, all the things that you feel too childish to express even to yourself. It's going to be full of all your worries, your fears, your self-doubts. It's going to be the place where you pour all that insecurity into so that it's not clogging up your brain. You can write accounts of your dreams, accounts of your nightmares, things that your kids did to piss you off today. All of that negative self-talk, all of that stuff, vomit it into your diary. That is what that is for. You don't need those junk files clogging up your brain, making all your systems run slow and giving you a bad impression of yourself. Squeeze it all out onto that page instead. Get rid. If you really, really don't know what to write that day, it's time to start asking yourself an uncomfortable question or 2. Those are hard, but when you really start digging down into that shadow work, so very worth it. Uncomfortable questions might be things like, what am I doing to hold myself back right now? What am I pretending is a positive behaviour but is actually negatively impacting me? What negative childhood experiences of mine are still weighing on me today? When was a time I could have handled things differently? What should I have done better in that situation? So, vomit all of that negative stuff into your shadow journal, maybe not literally. Think of it as an external SD card for your brain. So you're just putting all of your junk files onto there so it stops lagging you out and making you glitch, all right? And your subconscious will go, well, I've written that down, so I'm dealing with it. So I don't need to worry about it anymore. And that is the way to get all of that crap, all of that horrible self-talk, all of those doubts, worries, fears, and just shove them out of the way so that you can get on with starting your day. Because, you know, when we have been asleep, we dream a lot, even if we don't always remember it. And so sometimes when you wake up in just a pissy mood, that is because of bad dreams that you've had that you don't remember. By journaling everything out first thing in the morning, you're really just giving your subconscious an excuse to just clear all that out, like having a big poo first thing in the morning. Just get all that out of your brain. So how do we flush it away then? Okay, so once you have written out your pages and you've filled that notebook up, you're going to want to burn it. You don't want anybody else reading that stuff. You don't want to reread that stuff. You put it in that notebook to get it deleted out of your brain. And so now it's time for the permanent delete. Now, I'm burning this in my cauldron. That is by no means compulsory. Any fire-safe container obviously will do. Please make sure that you do it safely if you are burning your pages. So, I really, really love how turning them to ash just transmutes them into something that is going to be actually useful. I use the ashes on my garden to feed the spring flowers, and that reminds me that sometimes when something is challenging in life, it can actually turn out to have been the best possible thing for us. Now, if you can't burn stuff, maybe you live in a flat, maybe you're a bit younger, you're not allowed to burn things, or maybe you're just too damn clumsy and you're scared of burning your house down. I feel you, that's why I've got my hair tied up today. You don't have to burn them. You can scribble all over your pages, tear them up, shred them, stick them in the bottom of the recycling bin, and watch as the bin man takes them away. And they will rot away somewhere else, and they will go on to nourish something else, and they will become something better than they were today. Now, the reason that I tell you to wait until your notebook is full before you burn your pages is because otherwise it would just be a massive time commitment to have to burn this stuff every day. You've got to take time out of your day to do that, and then you probably, like if you're me, you then have to wash your hair afterwards because you're going to smell really bad, and you might not want to wash your hair every single day. I certainly don't. And so yeah, if though you feel like you're in a place where your pages might not be private and you want to really ensure that they are, it's perfectly fine to destroy your pages daily if you need to. If you feel that you might not have the privacy that you need, then you can destroy them each day. You don't have to burn them. You can scribble all over them, scrunch them up, shred them, tear them into tiny little pieces, bury them in your compost bin, put them in the recycling, whatever. And just know that whatever's happening with this, it is turning into something new, something that doesn't have to be your problem anymore. I really love the poetry of that. That's why, like I say, I use the ashes on my garden. I like them to be nourishing my plants that are coming next year. I want all of my horrible problems and pettiness and nastiness to be turning into something beautiful and useful and nice for me. And I really love that just using this method, I can do that. Also, it's extremely satisfying just watching all of these things burn away. It's fantastic. Like, who doesn't love fire? Maybe that says something a bit about me. So, now, the reason that we do destroy our pages, whoa, the wind has picked up a bit there and I nearly lost my head. The reason that we destroy our pages is to really underline the fact to our subconscious selves that this is a safe place for you to be petty and horrible. Because nobody likes to be seen to be petty and horrible, do we? And so we're always going to try and present the best side of ourselves. And the shadow journal is not for that. The shadow journal is so that your inner child can have a tantrum without embarrassing you. I'm embarrassing myself. I can't see. It does create an awful lot of smoke. That is why I only burn my pages once I have finished filling up a notebook. Ugh. I'm going to go and sit in a better position for this because the wind is blowing the smoke straight into my eyeballs. I will join you in a second. We'll talk a little bit more. I just really love this visual reminder that thoughts are just that, thoughts. They're fleeting and they're temporary. And they will all eventually fade away, leaving us feeling strengthened. So that is essentially my double journal method for quietening your thoughts, reorganising your brain and feeling more in control of stuff again. We keep the light reflecting journal so that we can keep returning to that and reminding ourselves that we are so much better than we give ourselves credit for. And then we keep the shadow self journal as a space to be petty, vindictive and mean and cruel to ourselves so that we can just watch that burn away into nothingness, float away on the breeze, or alternatively get scrunched up really small, torn into tiny little pieces and sent to recycling to become something much better. And that works in just the same way. Now, once I got into doing the whole journaling thing, I found it so useful that I became a little tiny bit addicted. So I actually do have 2 more journals as well, but those are not at all compulsory. But I have a standard diary here. This is an academic diary just because that's the time of year that I bought it. And it's just your standard normal week to view. This is what I use as my self-care and spiritual journal. And so I just do things in here like, have I posted my daily gratitude short? Because for me, that's part of my spiritual self-care, is taking the time to say what I'm grateful for. And posting it on YouTube really helps me to be accountable to that. And so I make a note that I've done it here in my diary. I also put down if I've done my daily Duolingo practice, because nourishing our minds, nourishing our intellect is exactly the same thing as nourishing our soul. For that same reason, I write down in here whether or not I've taken my vitamin, because nourishing our bodies is the same as nourishing our soul. It's all about learning to love ourselves as a precious object, learning to love yourself like you love your friends, like you love your family, like you love your children, like you love your spouse, because you are actually the most important person in your life. Now, this is by no means an essential, but I find that when I'm journaling something out, I feel more accountable to it. And so I started keeping a spiritual journal. I sometimes write down the tarot card of the day that I've pulled in there, or if I've spotted something that I think is an omen or a symbol or something, or I've had a particularly reflective dream that I want to remember details of, all of that sort of thing goes in there. Like I said, that's not essential. The other journal that I do use, and again, not at all essential, but if you're new to journaling maybe a bit creative, maybe a bit chaotic, don't really know where to start with journaling, you may find this useful. This is my strange notebook, which I've put together myself, but all of the prompts in it are prompts that I have used. So it will say things like, this week I nourished myself by, and you write the little list of things that you did to nourish yourself, whether that's your mind, your body, your soul, it doesn't matter. I've got another prompt in here, like the nicest thing that somebody ever did for me. And so these are quite useful if you want to use them as a light reflecting journal. But it's a bit of both, because you've also got questions in here like, what's the most important lesson you've learned? Or write a letter to your future self. And those exercises are all things that have helped me over the past few years with doing my shadow work and doing my journaling and doing that internal work that I needed to do to be happy again. All of the prompts that I found useful, I collated into that notebook. You can get the notebook on Amazon, but there are really cheap, horrible dupes out there that have got my description and my title, but are just blank pages, and those are not what I'm trying to give you. So if you want to be sure that you've got the right one, either make sure it's the cover that I just showed you with these colours. It has my name on it on the spine, which you can't see because it's too light, but it is also available on my website as well, victoriapearson.co.uk, and while stocks last, I'll throw in a free pen for you if you order from there instead. Those are not an essential whatsoever, but they might be a really good place to start if you're not really sure on where to go with the journaling and you feel you need a little bit more guidance, but you don't really feel into the whole self-help thing. Like, this is a way of doing it slightly more creatively. And there's a question in there which I never thought I would find particularly helpful, but it's one that I've come back to a fair few times, which is an alien has come and wants to speak to you specifically. Why? Now that might seem like a really daft prompt to start with, but actually once you start writing out a short story about why this alien wants to speak to you specifically, it really makes you think about what's so special about yourself, what's unique about you. And that can actually really, really help you. So yeah, those last two journals aren't at all essential for you to do this practice. You just need your two, but you might find them more useful. All of the prompts in my strange notebook have been designed to help you creatively find ways to love yourself. And that's what we're here for after all, isn't it? That's what it's all about. So that is the double journal method. If you try it and you find it useful, please drop me a comment, let me know. I would love to hear your success stories. Try it out for at least 28 days. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for you. If it does work for you, then it's only cost you 30 minutes a day for 28 days. And that seems really, really cheap for sorting out your entire life to me. Join me on Monday for my next vlog, where I will be talking about how witches spend Halloween, and we'll be making an apple pie together. I will probably be making an enormous mess. In between times, you can catch me daily on Shorts for my daily gratitude vlog. You guys have really helped me keep accountable to that, and it's really aided my spiritual practice. It's really helped me feel a lot better, and it's really, really helped me with my manifesting. So thank you so much for that. I hope you will join me then. But until then, you have yourself a great week.